fishing questions. We're just gonna let them kind of bring some of their fishing topics, fishing questions to the table. And then what I like about doing it this way is oftentimes if one person has a question about something, about 37 others have at least the same question or something close to it. So we're gonna let those guys bring their questions and topics to the table and either come up with a strategy, get some good topics going, get some good discussion going as well. I'm gonna jump in the app so I can watch the feed. Of course, you're more than welcome to ask questions tonight in the chat. You can only hold so many people on here and have productive conversation. So I figured 4 of us together would be a good number. So first thing I want to do is so Henry, Fred, and Tron. So Fred and Henry are a little newer to the app. Tron been with me since we pretty much started the whole thing. But all 3 of you guys, I want to get. I think there was 3 questions I want to ask you guys just to kind of get the ball rolling tonight. Number 1 question, I'm gonna throw a little curveball. Y'all thought y'all were gonna get to ask me questions. I'm asking y'all questions first. So first thing I want to ask all 3 of y'all is what's your favorite part of the app? We got quite a few new members in the app, and so it takes a little time for you to get familiar with our program, so to speak, what we're doing here. So maybe tell everybody what your favorite part of the app is, and then the next 2 things should be pretty easy. First one might be hard. Y'all might be, I don't even really like the app, actually. So, but the other 2 things is I want you guys to kind of share with us what you would perceive your strengths to be as a fisherman, and then the number 1 thing you're struggling with, which it might be actually be your question, but do that. Your favorite thing about the app. Secondly, what you perceive to be your strength, and then lastly, maybe what you perceive to be something that you can improve on or struggle with. It doesn't have to necessarily be in that order. Who wants to take a jab first? Shh, wait. Too many people talking at once. All right, I know. Y'all go ahead.
So you said only one favorite thing?
I didn't hear nothing you said, Tron. I heard you, but I didn't understand you.
So you said one favorite thing about the app?
Yep.
Probably the community section.
Community section. All right, cool. Community section. Then tell us what you think your strength is and one thing you struggle with.
Strength is finesse fishing, and you're probably gonna beat me for this one because we spent the whole day doing it. And weakness is jerkbait fishing.
Yeah, I can see that. Jerkbait fishing. That's one of those things you either like or you don't like. It's it's kind of funky thing. I just growing up around here, I think that's one of the things you just kind of do a bunch of. So I kind of gravitate towards it, but I can see how that can not be one of your favorite things. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense either. Like, why are we jerking this thing? Why can't you just wind it back to the boat? Like, why are we doing all that? All right, Fred, what about you? What you got, boss?
So can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Oh, I guess my favorite thing about the app, I would say, kind of 2 things really. I like the community side, like the round tables that we have on like Thursday, just getting to meet
Yeah.
different people and get their perspectives, which was actually beneficial for me to go down to Gunnersville on the the mini retreat. So that was I
Right.
would say that's the best part. Um, but being able to go back and look at the videos. So when you
Yeah.
when you talk about stuff, it's easy to plug in and be like, hey, I'm trying to understand this, and then I can dial it in and go back to that video. Like pretty much anything that we have a concern or a question about, you put it out there. So it's just like you just gotta type it in and go look at it. So
Yeah. That's awesome here. Good to hear. Yeah, I like that.
yeah.
All right. What about what are you good at and what do you think maybe like, oh man, I might probably should work on this or maybe a perceived
Um,
weak.
I honestly I would say as far as a strength, um, when I got into bass fishing, um, it's funny. My first bite was a 3 pounder on a frog. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty much comfortable with that. Or something that's I'm Texas rigging something. As
Yep.
far as
And,
the weakness, it's it's like trying the I guess the finesse in the sense of like this drop shot thing. Trying to understand that. Um,
okay.
my experiences with that has kind of been kind of weird because like when I learned how to throw a drop shot, Chris and Destiny had me waiting in the river up our way here. So
Yeah.
we're catching smallmouth, but I'm actually throwing a drop shot in the river while we're waiting. And so that
Yeah.
bite is totally different from me being inside the kayak,
Okay.
or at least to
Gotcha.
me. So
Yeah. Yeah. I see. I see. So drop shot is something you want to work on, or is that right? Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, that's good. All right, Henry. What about you, my man?
Well, my favorite part about the app is the lives that you have,
Yep.
and I like the fact that I can. You got a good amount of videos that I can search for and
Yep.
learn from. Um,
Right.
yeah, and the Ask BLAC portion of the community section, and
Perfect.
you answer like you're on it, like answer right away.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that should be one of the things about this is like, I can sit here and talk about all the stuff that I want to talk about, but if there's something you struggle with, something you got a question with, if you put it up, I'm going to get to it, and if it's not the same day, within the next day or two, for sure.
my strong suit is when I first started bass fishing, I think just about everybody started out with a Texas rig, some kind of
Yeah,
Texas rig, worm, creature bait. Um, I guess my weakness now is I want to learn new techniques. I want to learn how to, throw a crankbait, a chatter bait, a swim bait. Um, but every time I do that, you know, I come back empty-handed. Yeah, and
yeah,
yeah, I kind of get discouraged.
yeah. That you know what? To be honest with you, anytime you're learning a new technique, there's a couple things you got to consider. I think, let's just say you try a swim jig. I probably should ask you guys where you. I know where Tron lives, and I heard where Fred lives too, but I'm not sure with you, Henry. But every bait is not going to be the best bait for your lake or your area of the country. The chances are the reason you have a lot of confidence in the ones that you're talking about is because you catch fish on them. And so just swapping to, let's just say, like I got a swim jig in my hand right now. If I had to go to Lake Hartwell and catch a fish on a swim jig right now, I probably I could go 10 trips and not catch a fish on it. But if you gave me a jerk bait, you gave me a drop shot, hey, I'm gonna catch something on that because my lake lends itself to those baits. So uh, every technique is not for everybody. Every technique is not for every lake. That's why we're doing these fall breakdowns, and that's why we're breaking it down in different style lakes. One of the lessons that I taught at our in-person retreat this past fall, or was it last year? I can't remember, but it's be a pro at something. Be a I forgot. I didn't say be a pro in that particular lesson, but it was be a specialist is what I said. Find you a couple lures. You don't have to necessarily learn every bait and every lure there is. Just become a specialist at like two or three and get good at finding fish with those two or three.
Yeah,
Actually, fishing actually works best the reverse of what we think. We think most of the time is I need to learn all of these baits, I need to learn all these techniques, and then I need to go to the lake and figure out which one that I can catch fish on. When in all actuality, it's going to work out a lot better for you if you get confidence in a jig or get confidence in a swim bait or get confidence in a Texas rig. You already said you got confidence in that. Take that Texas rig and figure out where on your lake can you go fish the Texas rig. You can go to fish a lot faster that way because most of us are grown people and we got things and we got kids, home, job, practices. Like I don't have a night this week where I don't have nothing to do. Not one single night this week where I don't have anything to do. And so you don't have much time. So if you reverse engineer, it's going to go a lot faster for you. So good. That's good information. Let's do this. What we're doing tonight is I thought it'd be a better way of kind of tending you guys' needs and opening up good conversations if I actually had you in the chat, not necessarily just in the chat on the app, but actually have you here with your face and talking. I think it's a better way to kind of interact with you and answer your questions. So let's see. Let's start with you, Tron. What is your topic tonight? What do you want to talk about? What you got a question or what do you want to bring to the table tonight for us to discuss?
Cold fronts. I forget if I want to do like post cold fronts or pre cold front fishing.
Okay. And then what exactly is your question about cold fronts?
Just how to approach it.
Gotcha.
Like what money
How to
I need
approach
to go
cold.
when there's a cold front happen.
Yeah, so when you're fishing cold fronts, and this goes back to so much of what we talked about, really pretty much in everything, but we've been mentioning it a lot when we've been talking about fall fishing this year. When you're talking about cold fronts, please, 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 unless you live in Florida, Florida's about the only place this exception to this. Tron, would you live in here in the Carolinas? You live here close to me. When we talk about cold fronts, we have to be a lot more specific about what that cold front is. And the things that the cold front bring, oftentimes, besides the actual cold front, is what changes the fish. So oftentimes when we say, okay, how does this cold front coming, what's going to change with the fish? Well, I can guarantee you that the bass are not sitting around wondering like, oh my God, it is now 50 degrees. Let me get lethargic and sit there and hide. They don't react to that. Like bass are a part, that's the environment that they live in. They do not care about cold. They don't react to it the way that we are. You see, I got on my flannel tonight. They're not like trying to go wrap up in something. They're not trying to go hide and be still because all of a sudden now it's 50 degrees. They're animals. They literally do not give a rip. In fact, they probably be more active. But when we do get cold fronts, what's something that you've noticed that we've had today? A cold front is usually associated with probably 4, 5, 6 different things. What's one of those things that's usually? Say it again.
Wind, rain.
Yes. Okay. You're gonna get wind. You get a cold front. Most likely you're gonna get wind. You're most likely gonna get some rain. It could be clouds. Those are probably the 3 or 4 most important things. It could be, some other things could happen too. Something we don't talk about, just leaves falling. You know how hard, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But let's just stick to those main ones. You're gonna get rain. You're gonna get wind. You're gonna get clouds or some sort, some type of weather change. Something's gonna change with the sun. But there's other little things think about, like just leaves in the water, or stuff like that. Now, how is that going to change the fish? So you get a lot of rain. Now all of a sudden the back of the creek that you've been fishing for a week, because it's been low and dry and clear, now that sunbuck is 4 foot higher and it's muddy. That ain't going to be a good place for you to go now. It ain't the cold. Oftentimes it's affecting the fish. The fish, and like I said, relative to the situation, Carolinas, Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, they're not worried about that temperature change. That ain't doing nothing, really. That's just not doing anything. But the fact that the water may get higher because of the rain that came with the cold front, the fact that the water may get more muddy because of the rain that came with the cold front, the fact that now that you have a bunch of wind because of what came with the cold front, that changes things. So we can look at those 3 or 4 things, and now we can start to develop a plan. So if I'm fishing in the back of the creek, all of a sudden it's 2 foot higher and muddy. How will we mitigate that? What will we change so we can now catch fish if the creek got really high and really muddy? Anybody can, all three of y'all, or anybody, or even in the chat, y'all can answer that. You should know by now. I know you should have an idea at least.
Fish towards the dam or switch up to the bait selection.
Switch up the
Yeah,
color.
colors, uh, bait selection. So obviously, if the water got muddy, if the water got higher, one thing you can do is with the water rising is that changes where it positions the fish. So oftentimes with rising water, I'll start the fish structure that's more vertical. So in the spring, a lot of times the bass will go from the bank behind the docks to the actual fixed position docks. Or like you actually start catching them on the docks because it's just too much junk on the bank for you to fish. But on the docks, especially if there's a fixed position dock, the bass can go up and down the dock. But if you start fishing the bank, they can go back into the bushes and trees and lay all that stuff on the bank. It's harder to sift through all that. But if you can find just one dock isolated by itself, or one fixed position, or a bridge piling, or something, just anything that's vertical in the water, oftentimes it's an easier place for you to catch a fish instead of just trying to sift through 1.7 million thousand laydowns and bushes and wood on the bank. That's the way you can change and adjust. We're gonna get a lot of wind. Y'all just said, two of y'all just said you like jerkbait fishing is not your that's not your forte. So pull out that jerkbait, go to clear water. You can take advantage of reaction baits because you're gonna get wind and you might get clouds. Clouds a lot of times is better. A lot of times in a lot of situations for largemouth and spotted bass, clouds are a little bit better for reaction baits. We're talking about up north with smallmouth. Sometimes it's the exact opposite. Those calm, clear, slick, sunny days is when the reaction bite works best there. That's a whole different conversation, but that's why we have to section off all of these lakes and all these different ways of catching fish. What's the other thing we said? We talked about the rain. We talked about wind, the water rising. Also, water rising, I like to fish the steeper banks instead of the flatter ones. Y'all got any reason why I would do that? You don't know why I would do that? Flatter banks instead of the steeper banks. I'd rather fish steep instead of flat. Y'all know why that is?
Is it because of the depth change, I guess?
Well, depth change. I want you to pay attention anytime your lake floods or your creek floods on those steep banks. Like, well, let's just look at the flat banks. There's going to be bushes everywhere because the water goes back into the bank on a flat bank. But if it's any kind of bluff, a really steep bank, the water can only go up. It doesn't go back. So when the water goes up, you want to fish somewhere where the fish can go up and down, but not back, not front to back. So fishing those steeper banks, that's going to be your ticket. Something it took me forever. I didn't know that till probably 7-8 years ago. You would think it'd be the opposite. Like, oh God, all of these bushes, let me go flip all of this stuff. Well, it's a waste of time. You can never go through any of it, enough of it. So yeah, steeper stuff. What else around those cold fronts, Tron? Or was there anything else? It's pretty good.
Oh, I think that's about it.
That's it. Good. That's a good question because we are about to start dealing with cold fronts. We are right now, but just know that with cold fronts, they're not reacting in the way that you are. They're not. You know how you go outside and you're like, "Ooh, I need a hoodie. I need my down jacket." They ain't doing that. That ain't how that working. A lot of people say, "Well, it got cooler. They're going to deeper water." They are not going to deeper water because the water temperature cooled 5 degrees. Especially in our lakes, they got so much water in them. It's got to be 50 degrees for several weeks on end before we get any kind of temperature change. There again, if you live in Florida, that is not the case. It changes overnight. It changes by the hour because you only have so much water you're working with there. So we'd have to have a cold front conversation just about Florida lakes. But for most of your reservoirs, those cold fronts, it's not the actual cold that's changing the fish. It's the things and the elements that's associated with the cold front that oftentimes change the fish for you or the way that you can catch them. Okay, so open your eyes to that. All right, so let's hit you up, Fred. What you got? What are you bringing to the table today?
Um, I noticed that the other day, I think it was Saturday, I got out here at home. It was the first time really getting out since coming back from Gunnersville. So obviously the weather change was, definitely different. But um, I got into this little lake here at home, and there's not really a lot of structure. It's like a bowl or just a bunch of grass, and it makes these. It'll go like these tules or whatever, and then it'll be like this grass standing up, and then it'll go to mud, then it'll go to some rocks, and then it'll go back. It kind of repeats that pattern all the way around it. And
Yeah.
I said, man, I had on was two things I was doing. I had on a Bitsy Bug flipping jig, and I was like, I'm used to throwing a jig or whatever, but I couldn't tell when they were picking it up, and I was like, I don't know if that's because um, th- how they were, technically, I guess I want to say sitting, but I'm not sure if that's the right terminology. But I wouldn't know that they had picked it up until I'm getting ready. I done this a couple times. I'm like, okay, and okay, nothing. Then I get ready to reel it in, and I'm pulling it in, and I'm like, what is this? And it's like this little bitty little bitty bass swinging, knocking into the side of my kayak, and I'm like, I didn't even feel him picking it up. So I was wondering, like, was it because of the weather of how they're biting it, or was it, simply because maybe um, the test line or the trailer per se, or that I couldn't understand that. So that was one of the things. So
All right, so if I'm not mistaken, right, you're asking about how to detect strikes. Is that right?
yeah, in a
Yeah.
sense, because like any other time, like just being honest, man, when it starts to get cold here at home, I'm not really outside. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to be bothered.
Hey, we tropical people, my guy. You ain't got to say nothing else. Hey, you ain't got to say nothing else. No explanation needed. I'm done. Hey, what 45 degrees is about the max. I'm not going out no more. I don't have enough of it. Listen, before I started fishing, I was a landscaper all my life. I had to fight the wind, the cold, the hot, the rain. And then I started fishing for a living. So every time it's man, you know how many days that I'm fished in ice, snow, sleet, rain. I'm over it. I done did it. I'm wore out. So you gotta say nothing. But to answer your question about detecting strikes, so and especially with a jig, I'll be completely honest with you. Fishing with a jig, the bite is somehow desensitized somewhat. I don't know why. What was your setup when you were fishing this deal? Was it straight up fluorocarbon? What was your deal? Braid, mono? What are you using?
Yeah, I had a fluorocarbon, and
Okay.
yeah, it was typical Strike King Bitsy Bug flipping jig. It was like
Yeah.
I think a 3/8
Yeah.
whatever, and I had like a Zoom little trailer with the swimming kick legs on
Yeah.
there. Little
So
this little chunk.
yeah. So to answer your question, like your jig and your trailers, none of that's really going to matter. One of the things you want to get really good at doing to detect strikes is watching your line. That's the number one thing. You watch your line. You won't always feel the bite. If you're always feeling for a doop doop, or that like me, like my boy O out west is a doop,
Yeah,
you ain't gonna always feel that. It's not gonna always be this a big aggressive thump, and it has nothing to do with it being cold. It has nothing to do with the fish being lethargic. It's just the way you may have had slack in the line when he goes doop doop. I say this all the time when spring gets here, and if your water is clear enough, I don't think it is in Ohio, but you need to find somewhere where you can go sight fishing. Sight fishing exposes so much about bass behavior in you. When you sight fish, you will see the fish actually go and pick up your bait, and you don't feel anything. You don't feel anything. You have to get good and watch. A lot of times, when you're sight fishing, you'll flip it in there and he's got it, and you're like, I don't feel anything, dude. He done swam 20 feet, and that's what you're just making a pitch out there, 20 foot, 30 foot, 15 foot. So you can just imagine if you made a cast out 50 foot away from the kayak or from the boat or from the shore, you make a cast out 50 foot. Man, it could be 30 seconds before you know you got a bite, unless he goes that big doo-doo, which they don't always do. Sometimes those fish with a jig, they might have hit it and swam towards you. You know, like he might have came towards you. And there's no way for you don't feel that in your line. When the fish swims towards you with the bait, you are going to get more of a you just gotta watch the line. Or you'll notice that you can't catch up with it. You're working your jig like, man, I don't feel the weight of the jig. That's the way him swimming towards you with it. So
Okay.
get really good at watching your line, looking to see which way it's going. Get really good at knowing, like feeling the bait, being aware of when it's on the bottom and when it's not, because all the bites won't be this big aggressive thump. Some of the bites might be more of a loss of contact. This is one of my favorite baits. When you throw it out there, flip it in the bush, you're like, I know that some buck ain't still sinking. And then you're like, oh, shoot, he got it. He's here. You know, so watch that line. Be aware when they're swimming towards you with it. And that's going to help you a lot on your strikes, because it's not always going to be a big aggressive, doop. Not at all. All right. Well, you sound like you had a second one. What was that second question you had?
Yeah, when you was talking with Tron, you was mentioning about that jerk bait, about, um I started fooling around with the jerk bait probably, like, I guess, like, I want to say last summer. So I
Yeah.
got pretty acquainted with it, but in my mind, like, even when we were preparing for the Gunnersville trip, and you were telling me, I was like, well, I say, man, am I normally supposed to throw it B when it's windy and the water's kind of choppy? He was like, yeah, but I noticed on this same lake yesterday, I was getting a lot of strikes um, from smaller fish, but I was getting a lot of strikes on the jerk bait, but I wasn't like twitching, jerking it. I literally I cast it and I just was winding it as if it was like
Mhm.
a crankbait. And that's where,
Yeah.
and the water it wasn't no wind blowing. It was very still. Um, and the clarity of the water, I could probably see, maybe, because it's a man-made lake here, at like one of the little, like, parks we got here. So I could probably
Right.
see maybe 2 to 3 feet down,
Okay.
sitting in a kayak. So, but when they would strike it, when I'm reeling, of course it's digging, so I would lose sight of it, and I could tell it was on, obviously, because I would feel the pull from these little bitty guys. But I just thought it was odd that I wasn't having to do the normal, the jerk bait thing. I'm just winding like a crankbait, and that's when they were doing it. But if I was, trying to work it, they didn't want nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was kind
So
of wondering about that.
so with the retrieving, I think the question here is what kind of retrieve do I need to use with the jerk bait? Is that where you headed with that?
Yeah, like, is it always supposed to be
Hey,
the work in the jerk bait, or can you just wind
listen,
it as if it's a
listen.
crankbait?
Hey, listen to me. If you ain't never heard nothing I ever said ever, like, write this joint down. There are no absolutes in fishing. There is no absolute use this retrieve and it's the right way. There is no use this color and this is the right way. There is no use this line and this is the right and only way. It all works when it's working. The only thing that don't work is the stuff that ain't working. That don't work. If it ain't working, that don't work. The stuff that works. So if you look at the construction of a jerk bait, it is a crankbait. It's a
True.
shallow diving crankbait with a longer body. So yes, you can throw it out there and reel it. And if that's what they were doing to bite it, you should keep doing that. Don't listen to what I said. I ain't on the lake. Hey, I, I'm just sharing experiences with you. So the jerk bait, traditionally, that is the retrieve for it. You throw it out, and it's like pop, pop, let it set. Pop, pop, let it set. The jerk. That's why we say that. However, There's a tournament you should go back and find on the YouTube webs. Matter of fact, I may try to look to see if I can find it right now. Sometimes my internet acts a little crazy if I open a bunch of browsers. We're gonna try it. There's a tournament on Gunnersville. George Cochran won. This is like 2002, 3, something like that, somewhere along in there. You should go look at this tournament. I'm gonna see if I can find it. Named George Cochran. This is like 20, 25 years ago. He was fishing a jerkbait. It was cold. And I want you to see his retrieve, dude. It was the most simple little feathering. Like he was just 2005 Gunnersville. I think, no, that's that one that the Japanese guy won. There was one. It may be hard to find that. If I can't find it like in a couple seconds, I'll post a link in the community section. I want to say this one right here that I'm seeing in 05 was the one. Turn that volume. This was the good old days of tournament fishing. Here, I'm gonna share my screen just so y'all can see what I'm looking at. Gunnersville is iconic, man. You probably have no clue how iconic of a lake you were at when you were there. Let's see. If you watch this tournament, I guarantee you somebody's fishing a jerkbait there. There's another tournament that you could watch. It'd be the Bassmaster Classic that Hank Cherry won on Gunnersville. Just type in that. Just Lake Gunnersville, Hank Cherry. Look at Swindle. This ain't the one. I want to find the one for you. Lake Gunnersville, George Cochran. I don't even think it wasn't the Elite Series back then. It was like Bassmasters. You need to watch this. I want you to see how he was retrieving that very, very subtle jerks with the jerk bait. It wasn't that traditional pop, pop, pop. He was doing this little thing. He was almost like pulling it, like just a little subtle, like just a little bump, just bumping it. I'm having trouble finding. I thought it would have popped right up. That's 2007. That's definitely not it. Look at that. Look at this one. 92, 93 Bassmasters Gunnersville. It's nothing like that anymore. Believe it or not, Lake Gunnersville actually used to suck a little bit. You would never know it, but in the 90s, it was not a good lake. Early 90s, it wasn't really that good. And something happened. I don't know if they got the grass right or what happened, but it got right, and it's been on an upward trend pretty much for the last at least 20 years. There's been a few dips in there. I know back in maybe 2014, 15 to about 2016, 2017, 18, it had a little dip, but it's come back again. And usually that's around the grass. But to answer your question, I'm still looking for this video and I'm not seeing it. To answer your question about a retrieve or any other bait for that matter, never get locked into this is how you retrieve it, this is where you throw it, and that's the absolute gospel truth. That's not how this works. This game is not played that way. There are no absolutes. You can do whatever, however you want. Let's look at this Hank Cherry one. You can. That's the beauty of fishing is you're exploring how you should be fishing something, a bait, a lure, where you find fish. One thing I like about the Bass Pro Tour is since they weigh in every bass counts, it has opened up a lot of areas of lakes that never would have played otherwise. You watched Dustin Connell at the Red Crest this year, up there where he's fishing behind that dam, that never plays in a traditional 5 bass tournament. But the fact that it was every fish counts, it opened up that tournament. So fishing is let's see if I can see his retrieve here. I want you to watch a retrieve more than I want you to watch a fish catch. This is Gunnersville right here. Looks like it's mostly highlights, so you probably won't get much retrieve. I don't want to see the catch. I want you to see what he's doing with this jerkbait.
It looks like he's dragging like Carolina ring.
See now he's working his pretty aggressive. They ain't shit nothing but fish catches. The one time I want to just see what they're doing I'll tell you what I'm gonna do, Fred. Um, I don't see what I'm actually looking for. I'm looking for that Gunnersville tournament because it's the best example of how to retrieve a jerk bait in a non-traditional way. I'll find that video and post it in the in the community section for you tomorrow. You need to watch that. You can go back and find a lot of old videos on jerkbait fishing, and they're not always just traditional pop 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 pop. There's one Brian Thrift one on Beaver Lake where he's working it super fast. So definitely explore everything you can with it.
Did I get that quote right? If it ain't working,
Which one?
that don't work.
Yeah, if it ain't working, that ain't working. That don't work. Yeah, like if that ain't working, that don't work. You know, if the traditional pop up or everything you see me do or somebody else on YouTube, if that's not working, then that ain't right. The right one is the one that's working. All right, Mike, did we lose Henry?
It looks like it. He hadn't come back in.
Yeah. Henry said he said, screw this, bro. I'm not doing this tonight. Henry said goodbye. All right, so what hey Fred, did you have another one? Was that it? Just the retrieve, or did you have something else that you needed to talk about, question about?
Yeah, man. It wasn't something major. I know when we had talked, you said to kind of give you when I get the opportunity to give you some details of my.
Uh-oh. He popped off. He popped off. He
We're
did
just
one of my
losing them one
numbers.
at a time.
Yeah, I know. The Russians, man. The Russians be out to get us. I'll look in the chat and see if I see anything too.
Oh, Fred's coming back.
Oh, he's coming back? Yeah, he's coming back. Hold on a second, guys. The internet is like that oftentimes.
All right. There we go. Hold on. Fred, we got you?
Yeah, I can see you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I got you. We got you. I didn't catch hardly much of that, what you were about to say.
Can you try turning your phone again?
There you go. Right there.
That'll work.
Yeah, you were saying regarding like going down to Gunnersville, you said to let you know what the experience was. And I was
Yeah.
I was kind of interested, man. I hadn't posted in the app yet, like the pictures and stuff. But the day when we went to the water, I'm looking at Alex and Chris and the other Chris and Destiny. We lunch and we get out there, and it was I went off by myself, which was actually pretty good because typically I would have just followed Chris and Destiny around. And
Yeah.
but we got to this area of Mud Creek, right? And it was like a boat dock or whatever, or like, and the wind started blowing, and Chris got a bite, and he was telling me like what it was. So I kind of like took my kayak, and I the wind was blowing towards us. I faced the wind with my kayak and dropped my little anchor down in front, so I would just stay still. And he told me, cast out. So I cast the frog out and all this matted grass, but the transition was like all this matted grass from the back. But then I guess it was the first time I had ever seen eelgrass. I guess it was like the stringy stuff. I don't know. I guess that's what it was. And so
Yeah.
I pulled a frog across the matted grass, thinking like, because anytime when I first started bass fishing, I caught a bass on frog. It was coming through like that kind of grass, the mats, and like duckweed. But this time, this strike was so crazy. I'd never seen nothing like it before. It was like the fish waited till the frog came out of the matted grass and got to the eelgrass, and he exploded like through the eelgrass. And I was wondering, because I know they were sitting back in the mats, but why was that transition? And again, like you said, there's no absolutes. Maybe he was just like, well, maybe he felt more confident that he could get to it through the eelgrass. But I just thought that was kind of unique, where I I caught that. And I remember Chris telling me, he said to cast the frog in the sense of something that would that looks different based
Yeah.
on what you normally would see. So I just wanted to, bring that up to you because I thought that was kind of interesting how I caught those fish. And then when we talked about that chatterbait, that next bite right after that, it was crazy because I seen some fish like they were chasing something, and I said, well, just let me throw the chatterbait out there wherever they were chasing. And this 19-incher just turned around. Like I never seen that before. I literally seen his body just turn around and just wham and pull my whole kayak around. So it was just the bites was just different. I mean, obviously it's Gunnersville and it's different from up here, but just the way I saw it, I'd never seen stuff like that before. So it was just different. So
So if I'm understanding right, I think the question is, where the fish position in the grass. Is that kind of what you're asking there? Like,
yeah,
or why do they position themselves in certain types of grass? Is that where we're headed with that?
yeah. I'm guessing. I was wondering, like, is that why the strike was there? Because typically I would have thought that they you see the fish come from up under the mat, right? The matted grass, but
Yeah.
you could tell the transition of that mat is almost like me taking this piece of paper, right? And this, and then it's out
Yep.
here is totally different. And he came
Clear.
right on the edge between the
Hmm.
two different ones meeting. And I just thought that was
What?
kind of different, like
So
unique. Wow,
that
like
eelgrass? Was it the chopped up eelgrass that's laying on the surface, or was it the chopped up? Was it the eelgrass that's actually connected to the bottom?
it was a combination of both.
Combination of both. Typically, that makes sense. But here's the answer. Here's the answer to your question. Fish always relate to an edge. You got two different type of grasses that mix. It probably was some type of hydrilla, and then on the edge it went to eelgrass. The eelgrass covers the bottom, so the hydrilla can't grow on top of the eelgrass, which is a problem for Gunnersville because that's going to eventually keep a lot of the hydrilla from growing. Which is hydrilla is one of the best. There's never been a lake that existed that has hydrilla where the bass don't live in it. If the lake's got hydrilla, fish are in it. It's just bass magnets. So everything, I talk about this all the time. If you go back and look at any of the grass fishing seminars that I did back this past summer or even last year, just type in grass fishing in general, I always talk about transitions. And what you were fishing, where that fish came from, was right on the edge where the eelgrass and the hydrilla transition from one grass to the other. That's one thing that you're always going to look for when you're fishing grass is differences in the grass. It can be where the grass is thicker. It can be where the grass is thinner. And what that's doing is telling you something about the bottom. It's telling you that the bottom is either sandy, it's mucky, it's rocky, depending on how thick or thin it is. And so that going from hydrilla to eelgrass is telling you something about the bottom, and the fish always relate to transitions. They always relate to hydrilla to eelgrass, eelgrass to sand, eelgrass to rock, openings in the grass, thick spots in the grass, the cheese on top of the grass. I'm sure you probably threw your frog over the top of some of that cheesy yellowish looking stuff on top of the grass. Those are all just transitions. And so when that cheese is on top of the grass, that creates shade. If you create shade, you get a hollow in the grass. Where you think old big honey head is setting it, if there's a hollow, he says his big head right on the edge of that hollow, waits for something to land on that and go chomp chomp. So that's one of the reasons I like grass fishing. Grass fishing is literally telling you everything. When you're fishing wood, you don't know how far a laydown goes down in the water. When you're fishing docks, you don't know if there's brush under there or not. But grass, it can't help but to tell you what's going on there. And so what you were seeing is just the fish just relating to an edge. That when you're fishing grass, I always start at an edge. Always. I don't care if it's summer, fall, winter. I'll always start at that edge. Because the edge is usually a depth change. Or a bottom composition transition. The bottom transition composition. But it's going from one type of dirt to another, basically. So it's always a good place for you to start. But if I were you and I was fishing there, I would have found that edge that you're talking about where it went from hydrilla to eelgrass, and I just would have followed it all the way along till I started getting a lot of bites. It's really that simple. It almost sounds like an insult to your intelligence. It's like I came in this app to get some juice, and then Brian's on here talking about, oh yeah, just go find the edge and just fish it. I mean, that's I mean, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, you just literally find the edge and just start going down through there until you start getting bites. You
Well,
can make
to
it
be
complicated if you want to.
yeah, I mean, to be honest, even with you saying that, like, that makes a lot of sense without me knowing that. Like I said,
Hmm.
I stayed in that arm of where we were, and I fished that whole edge like the entire time. Like the entire time we were there, I just stayed up in there, and I got
Hmm.
several bites. Like um, I mean, a lot of bites. Of course, things I was trigger happy on a few of those frogfish because I was just tripping that I threw a daggone frog up under a boat dock for the first time, skipped it under there. Didn't know how I did it, but it happened, and boom, explosion, got him.
Yeah.
But I was actually doing that, that edge, and not really knowing that's what I was doing. So it
Right.
makes sense
Yeah.
now that you say it like that. So I mean, I know.
Okay. Let's look at a couple other things. You just said a whole mouthful right there. So I'm fairly familiar with Mud Creek. There's a if you look on my YouTube channel, there's me and Gerald Swindle fishing some frogs. You just type in like Brian Latimer frog fishing with Gerald Swindle.
I remember that
That's
video.
in that's in Mud Creek.
Oh
So I
wow.
don't know if those pads and stuff are still in there, but this is a perfect example with you saying that. You mentioned you fish docks. I'm willing to bet I can't even remember the docks in Mud Creek, but I'm willing to bet whatever dock you fish, it probably had grass surrounding it. Did it have any grass around that dock? Okay.
Every last one.
All right. Now listen at what you just said. You got a bite on a frog between eelgrass and hydrilla. Transition. Now, slow down. You really, really like break this stuff apart. Okay. Now you're talking about you fished a dock and you got bit under a dock. What do you think that shade over the top of the grass was creating? Look in your yard. You
Just
got a
I
yard. Are
guess
you in
just
a house right now? You got any trees in your yard?
nope.
Yeah, that makes sense. Nobody does that anymore. All right, where's the hardest place to grow grass in a yard? It's gonna be where there's trees at, because there's shade. So
Yeah.
when that dock created shade, there ain't no grass under the dock. It can be grass all around that dock, but there will never be grass inside the dock because there's no light. So old Big Head sits right on the edge that shade creates. That's what he does, and he sits there and he waits on them little brim and them little crappie and them little minnows to swim around in that hole that the dock creates. So anything, when you're fishing grass, anything that's in the water creates a void. So that could be eelgrass, a patch of eelgrass, the cheese on top of the grass that creates shade. Light can't get to the grass, it dies, creates a void. Bass goes in hole. Dock creates shade. Grass dies. Bass goes in hole. Listen to me. Lily pads. Big old flat lily pads sitting on top of the hydrilla. No light penetrates, or little light, less light penetrates. Grass dies under the lily pad. That creates a void. Bass goes in the void. So anytime you see anything on grass, a lay down, a piece of log in grass, that log creates shade. There's a void, and a void does not have to be this giant thing the size of my shop. We're not talking about those type of voids. It could be just a little bit of void. Think about this. The shades in your house. You probably got blinds in your house, right? You ever
Yeah.
tried to sleep in daytime and you just got the smallest crack in them curtains?
Yeah.
It'll
It
light up the
irritates me.
whole gosh doggone room over that little bit crack. Same way with grass fishing. It don't take but just a little bit of void to let light in there. And he goes, sucks right to it. It lights up everything beneath the surface with just a little bit of void. So just remember that anything that's in the grass, it creates a void, and it's probably going to be a fish on it. Probably going to be a fish on it. A lily pad, a different type of grass, something on top of the grass, a dock. What else have I seen? Sailboats. Sometimes they'll moor up a boat. My favorite way to catch bass in all of earth and all of Jesus Christ is fishing them gosh doggone marinas that are covered up in grass, because everywhere there's a boat, the boat creates this void in the grass. And you just take your stick bait, skip it up right beside them buckets, the boats, it sinks down, doo-doo, I got him. You can watch any of my Potomac River videos. That's my cheat code. I don't even, I wish I had some complicated, cool thing that made me sound like I deserve having a fishing app where I teach people how to fish, bougie. I don't have it. I be throwing Sinkos at voids and grass. I be throwing Texas rigs at laydowns. I ain't got nothing really cool to do. It'd just be like simple stuff like that. Like really, really simple stuff that anybody can do. But you gotta like open your eyes to all this simple stuff. Like it's laying right there, but you gotta open your eyes to it. Very, very simple. So like what you did, like you found that you talked about that place with the eelgrass and the hydrilla. When you caught on to that, you do that one time, you get a bite. You can get a bite one time on anything. You can get 2 bites on a lot of things. But by the time you got that 3rd bite finding the edge, at that point, that's when you start to hone in and look for nothing but more spots exactly like it. One bite, I mean, you can get one bite out in the middle of the gosh doggone river on a yellow frog on a Carolina rig. You might get one bite doing that. You'll never get 2 bites doing that, but you might get one. We won't really care about one bite. 2 bites, kind of starting to get my attention, and now I'm curious about what's going on. Good buddy, when you get that 3rd bite, now it's time for y'all to get serious, and you're in a relationship at that point. You know what I'm saying? You're in a relationship. What's going on? You need to start dialing in to where to go, looking for more, and just and trying to duplicate whatever you found. Yeah. All right, Tron. What about you? Did you have anything else?
This just popped into my head when you talk about fishing steeper banks where the water's rising. So vice
Yeah.
versa, when the water's falling, would you fish the flatter banks? Like if you have a
Uh,
lake and you start pulling water?
so actually, when they start pulling water, I'll still fish the steeper stuff. But what I really like to do when they start that's why I like the vertical structure, because when you start talking about pulling water, they go up or down. If the water goes up, they go up the structure. If the water goes down, they go down with the structure. Or they may just pull out. They may go. Let's just say docks. That's something just about every lake's got docks, right? So you got vertical structure. You have poles, or even if it's a floating dock, the water goes up, gets higher. They may just start using the post near, like, at the back of the dock, the catwalk posts. They may start using the first ones that where it goes to the platform or goes to whatever you call the deck of the dock. They might hit those first couple of 2 or 3. Let's say the water drops 3 foot, a foot, 8 inches, depending on where you are. A lot of times they just work their way out to the post towards the deeper water. That's the beauty of fishing docks or any kind of vertical structure. But let's say if it drops and you're fishing some type of flat, I wouldn't necessarily go to a flat. But when they start dropping the water, what I notice a lot of times, if you are fishing like flat banks, what I've noticed is oftentimes they get off of the structure, period. Let me explain. They drop the water. In some places just dropping it 3, 4, 5, 6 inches. Like, let's just say Coosa River, they drop it 6 inches, and it's just like it changes everything. And that happens all the time, every day there. You might have been catching fish, swimming a jig and like that water willow stuff. Or you might have been catching fish flipping bushes. Well, the bushes are already only in a foot of water. They drop 6, now you don't have any water. They'll go from a good flipping bite to now you're winding a chatterbait in front of it. They so if they're holding tight the structure on the high water, they drop it. They kind of like get out and suspend a little bit because they don't have anything to hold on to, so they're just swimming right out in front of it. So a chatterbait becomes a player. A spinnerbait becomes a player. A crankbait, a square bill crankbait becomes a player because they get out in front of the structure they were on and start suspending a little bit. And we're not talking about suspending in 10, 15 foot of water. They're suspending. They go from being in the bush, they go from being in the grass to swimming in front of where the grass was. And you got to use a different bait to catch them with. Maybe it's a top water. That's something that I used to mess up on all the time in my tournaments. Exactly what you're talking about right there. Hey y'all, I'm about to put the link to that video that I was talking about in the chat right now of Guntersville where Fred was talking about fishing in Mud Creek. I'm gonna put it in there right now. It's taking a second. There you go. Yeah. Good question, Tron. That's a really good water movement is something that's taken me a long time to get used to because we don't have water movement here in the Carolinas. Really, it takes 4 months for our water to move, 6 or 8 inches. A lot of these places I go to, it changes overnight. It did that at Pickwick this year when I was fishing Pickwick. Water dropped and then it went way back up. Let's see. Did we have any questions in the chat, Mike, that you saw? I didn't see any, but it could be some that I missed.
There's been a lot of back and forth.
No questions.
Seen a lot of questions.
If y'all got questions, you better bump them up. Bump them up. Bump them up. I want to find that George Cochran video for Fred. I can't find it right now.
Brian, what's the latest on the power move from Florida to these parts?
I don't know what that.
I don't know if that was what was that in reference to?
Power move from.
I did see somebody commented. You were talking about the BPT and how it brought areas into play that weren't normally in play, and the question was, so does that mean there's areas with big fish and areas with little fish? Can you riff on that a little bit more on kind of what you mean?
So I think he was talking about I don't want to say, well, yes, there's areas in every lake that has big fish and areas that don't have tournament quality fish, 5 fish quality fish. So let me tell you what I mean by that. Let's just use that example that I talked about where Dustin Connell, I'm pretty sure he won the Red Crest up there behind the dam. So at the dam, there's no grass. The further you go up the river on Guntersville, you're going away from grass. We all know, where do the biggest bass live in any lake that has grass? They're going to be where the grass is. Those fish up there behind the dam, I think that would have been Wheeler Dam, if I'm not mistaken. Those fish are going to be more current oriented, and they're going to be more bait fish oriented. They're not going to grow as big. If you'll watch that video, he caught a lot of spotted bass. He was catching all kind of stuff. But the big honey head ones, they live down there in that grass all the time. That's just how you catch them on Guntersville. It's just simple. It is what it is. You catch them in the grass, the bigger ones. They're eating brim. They're eating shiners. They're eating all the big high protein. They're in the fast food section. Okay? They're in the food court. Up there at the dam, that's the Whole Foods people. That's the bougie people. That's the Patagonia guys. They're eating Chipotle. You know what I'm saying? They eating all the fresh. They eating Fresh Market and Starbucks. And so they're thin, they're not as big. Just the habitat in that area of the lake doesn't support 5 to 10 pound bass. Down the lake in the grass supports absurdly obese big bass. So, and that kind of goes to the question. I remember Tim asked about that earlier this week. He was asking something about, if you got little fish, do you go and look for big fish? Well, first of all, if you know that there's little fish at the dam behind Wheeler, in a 5-fish tournament, it is absolutely dumb for you to go up there if you know the bigger ones live down the lake and you can catch them. But you always catch the fish that you can catch. Chances are, if you went to the dam, which is a very long way, by the way, you don't just get to go up there real fast. It's a long way. Chances are, if you took the risk to go up there, you can't catch them anywhere else. And that's just a predicament that you'll be in while you're tournament fishing. Is you'll be in a predicament like, well, these are smaller. I had to catch them up here at the dams. That's all I found. You got to catch something. You can't, just because I said that the bigger ones live down there in the grass. If you fish down the lake 3 days in a row, you didn't get no bites. You can't keep doing that. You got to go where you get some bites. That's something that the mainstream audience never realizes. They're like, well, they look at the tournament and they say, well, I can't believe you didn't go down. Timmy, I didn't get a bite down there in Spring Creek. I can't keep going back to that. That's stupid. At least I got a chance to get catching a fish where I'm going. So to answer your question, yeah, absolutely. Even on my lake, my home lake, Lake Hartwell, once you get out of the center section of Lake Hartwell, when anybody calls me about fishing Lake Hartwell, I always tell them, do not go under a bridge. Go stay around Andersonville, Green Pond Island, Reed Creek, all that. Do not go up a river. You can go down to the dam, but the further you go towards the dam, you're going further away from fish. All the best humps, all the best timber, and all the food lives from Green Pond to the tip of Andersonville Island. Yes, absolutely, you can catch fish up Tugelo River. Yes, absolutely, you can catch fish up the Seneca River, but you're going to catch smaller fish up there because there's not as big a population of blueback herring in any of those stretches of river. Furthermore, there's not as much habitat, the right habitat, which would be humps, brush piles, timber lines. There's not enough of that to support life in those rivers, but in the middle section of the lake, it is. I can guarantee you, anytime you see somebody catch a big bag at Hartwell, especially in the spring, like from probably December to May, it's going to be in the center section of the lake because that's where the best habitat is. The biggest bags will always come most consistently from where the best structure is in any given lake. The most structure. You can take that one to the bank. Doesn't mean you're going to get to catch them. Don't mean you will get to catch them. You got to find the bite that you got. But most consistently, the bigger bags, bigger fish come from where the best habitat is in that lake. Take it to the bank. Take it to the. That's why in tournaments you have an 80 boat tournament, 100 boat tournament. Everybody ends up fishing on top of one another. That's why. Because the fish live where the best habitat is, and the anglers often find the best habitat. The best docks, the best grass, the best humps, the best wood, the best timber, the best creeks. We all find the best stuff because the best stuff holds the best bass every single time. Count on it. Ain't that right, Tron?
Yes, sir.
All right.
The moving from Florida question was about the goods from Shop Belat. I think there was a question about you moving your store stuff and
yeah. Pulling that here to Carolinas. Yeah. So yeah, we're pulling it here. It's gonna take me a minute, but that's gonna happen. Okay. I gotta find that video for you. I'll find that video for you, Fred, while I'm laying in bed tonight before I snooze off. All right, y'all. Let me know what y'all think about doing the lives this way. We may do it a couple more times. Maybe have 3, 4, 5 people in here, and we'll just go one at a time. I think next time, Mike, we'll pull like whoever's presenting the question, just have them in the screen doing it. I didn't think about that until we got started. Well, just like a mental note, because I know I'll forget something between now and next time we do live.
all right.
Okay.
If you find that YouTube link, send that to me. I'll make sure I get all that in the description when I repost this live, so you guys can find it.
Somebody's got to have it somewhere. I can't remember what they called Bassmasters back then. I think it was the top 100. But I'll find it and I'll get it to you because you want to watch this, Fred. It's really cool. It's like
Cool.
at the time he had the largest 5 bass record, not largest 5, but the biggest tournament, all-time tournament weight back then. It was like 100 pounds. It was the first time somebody eclipsed the 100-pound mark in a tournament. It was George
Wow.
Crocker on Gardnersville on jerkbait. All right. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all tuning in. The next live will be Thursday. We have the roundtable. Make sure you go to those roundtables. Those are a good place, like Fred was talking. It's a good place for you to interact with other people and chit chat with people in the community. And then I'll do one, of course, Friday midday. All right. Y'all have a good day. Thanks everybody for showing up tonight.
See you guys.